Greetings. I am Dr. Noni Davis coming to you from Sya Academy. And we're Dr. Noni Shule here today. Today I want to finish. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to finish chapter 6 of Where Do We Go From Here. Um, oh my goodness, this book is everyone needs to. If you haven't read this book, you might need to reread this book because it is fascinating. Dr. King's prophetic insight is just amazing. So a quick recap at the end of chapter 5, Dr. King identified the way that Black leadership is always cultivated, or there's an attempt to cultivate it by European Americans. So European Americans come in, they choose this person. They're like, "Oh, we like you. We want to help you," white liberals. And so then they they almost pull this person in because of this ability to, what is it, charisma that they have, and to lead and to continue, to go ahead and excel and get into these positions. But the whole time they're cultivating this idea of an African American, a white facing African American. And so even though they're going to make sure, well, you all want some civil rights, and, we'll write out all this legislation, and, then after the legislation is passed and after we've gotten you in office, now we need you to, calm down. We're not going to do all of it. We're going to give you something. You don't want to rush the process, and it'll happen over time, and da 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 da. So, they force this allegiance to a European worldview, but it's in blackface. And so we get these crumbs, and there's just this continued attempt to manipulate African Americans by acting as though there is support for legislation for us. And then once we get it, they slowball it. He was like, it's like they, put on the accelerator to get these Black people elected, or put on the accelerator to use this legislation as a way to get you to vote. And then they put on the brakes, like, oh, we're going too fast, all that kind of foolishness. Well, today, we're still in this fight. We face the exact same racialized issues of the past. We just had Jasmine Crockett and Terry. Oh my gosh, I don't want to say his name wrong, but you all know the white guy from Terry Nico, something like that. Who, the white dude, is not a lawyer. Jasmine is a lawyer, has been working in the community, has done real work in the community, with working with people who are in prison, and helping them to get, transition out of it, and all kinds of activism with that she has created. I think free legal services and all kinds of stuff. Then she actually was in Congress, and then she actually did pass some bills. This little white guy has only been a state representative for Texas. But they said his demeanor would be more receptive than Jasmine Crockett's, because Black, we have to be soft spoken, and when we can't be rolling our head and talking, because you all gonna get dizzy watching our heads roll, instead of listening and understanding the passion behind what we're saying and what we're trying to accomplish. So enough of that. But that's where we are right now, even in Texas. So Africans made significant gains in the civil rights movement of anti-affirmative, civil rights movement. But then we began to have an immediate backlash, a counter movement of anti-affirmative action. I know y'all remember when they did some scale of measuring IQ, and saying Black people didn't have really good IQ, over improvement. Trying to say that We are, like I said, not qualified to be in these jobs. Oh, we stated your qualifications, or we under your qualifications were below ours, but we put you in the position anyway. You have over criminalization of African American communities. These negative stereotypes came up, and then the most blatant realization that African Americans are not only qualified, but more so than their white counterparts who are often in the supervisory roles. So that happened and has continued to happen, that we are so qualified and we are still not getting paid what we earn. And then finally, you have this breakthrough. I personally experienced this when I was in grad school in Virginia. I was the most educated person in my office, and I was the only Black person in my office. And I was the youngest person in my office, and I outperformed everyone within a year of being in this finance office. And it was a very hostile. It was not blatant, but the little things that people said to me. And I was the Black girl with the head. And not only did I have the degrees, but because I think I was the only person in there with a college degree, but I also had the attitude. Like, and they didn't like that because I was not nice. But anyway, so Dr. King now. So that's the way he ends the last chapter 5, talking about how we are still being manipulated, and there's this buffoonery of trying to get our political message and political needs across, and then once we do it, it gets undermined. And that's exactly what happened in the 70s with affirmative action and all of that stuff, and then they just dismantled it piece by piece. um so he opens the chapter 6 on page 177. I was like, wow, Dr. King, you are so nuts. All right. The World House is what he calls it, chapter 6. A widely separated family inherits a house in which they have to live together. This is the great new problem of mankind. We have inherited a large house, a great world house, in which we have to live together. Black and white, Easterner and Westerner, Gentile and Jew, Catholic and Protestant, Muslim and Hindu, gay, straight, Asian, Hispanic, and all this, who, because we can never live apart, must learn somehow to live with each other in peace. All inhabitants of the globe are now neighbors, and this worldwide neighborhood has been brought into being largely as a result of the modern scientific and technological revolutions. And so, America used to call itself a melting pot. I remember when that word was used and thought blowing around a lot. And when I was growing up, and in some ways, it is a melting pot, but it also isn't a melting pot. When I say it isn't a melting pot, is because we have cultural values that we should not have to sacrifice. You have religious practices that you should not have to give up. You have your own sense of destiny that you should not have to relinquish, as long as you're not causing anybody any harm, uh, especially children. But we are in the melting pot, but we have not been turned. We're more like a stew with different versions of chicken soup, something like that. Anyway, but some of it's over rice, and some of it is no rice, and some of it's with potatoes. Anyway, so almost everything in America was transported here, except indigenous knowledge. Okay, so we all like basketball, football, soccer, hockey, all of these are considered American games. But hockey and soccer games have origins in indigenous culture. So that I just want to make sure we identify that we didn't bring everything here. The indigenous people already had their own stuff. And so foods like popcorn, turkey, cornbread, and indigenous foods were also here before Europeans got here, and before it, and the indigenous Africans were here too. You had leather moccasins, beadwork, and ribbons are aspects of indigenous clothing. Um, and definitely, let's not forget, that before the Constitution, Native Americans were also practicing in democratic ideals and cultural norms. So long before Europeans. So as far as everyone else, it could be argued that now, if we're gonna talk about who has the most influence as a culture in America, it's gonna be African Americans. I asked AI, and AI said, uh, as far as everyone else, it could be argued that our African Americans have been the most influential in the construction of positive aspects of American culture by branding European things. Okay, so trumpet, the saxophone. I can't say the flute because Africans had flutes. But trombones and a piano. We didn't have a piano, but we had the balafon. Okay, so we took these European instruments and turned them into unique sounds. We took the harmonies, the harmonicas, which are from, I think that's German or something, pianos, trumpets. We created a drum set. We took I think I did a podcast on that, how we took the djembe, the samban, the kinkini, and the bell and turned it into a drum set down in Louisiana. That was black people during ragtime. Um, we took our instruments and recreated them on the continents and transformed European instruments into the unique sound of blues, ragtime, jazz, R&B, funk. You all remember Parliament? Earth, Wind, and Fire. All of these people took those instruments and we took them and made our own music with it. We took white man's version of the Bible and created work songs, spirituals, gospel music, and liberation theology. We took European art forms and remembered our ancestors and allowed their energy to flow through us and designed, forged, carved, painted, transformational, authentic, soul shifting, mind boggling, breathtaking architecture, clothing, monuments, statues, furniture, communities that call for, girl, let me have an amen. What else do we say? Go King. I see you, Queen. All right now, and do your thing. We got all those affirmations because our stuff was so amazing. We created cuisine from the scraps off the white man's table, and we created soul food. Um, we created grits, biscuits, rice, and barbecue. Now, with barbecue, I think the Scottish and the Irish were doing that, and also Native Americans. So we put our own spin on it. And every time we speak, like I was saying just above, what our colloquialisms, our slow become speeches, become slogans, become pitches, become ingrained in the corporate uh, uh, advertising for particular products. We can't say anything that does not eventually uh, find its way into the mainstream media. And let's not forget about um, this plastic surgery that people do to get black women's cheekbones, fuller lips. Mine again are not that it's full anymore because I'm getting old. But anyway, uh, cheekbones, and we know hips and thighs and all that kind of stuff. They just are constantly, and we put on our wigs, but this other stuff, they, we saw what was her name? That little girl who's up there speaking on Trump's behalf. All her little dots where she's getting her lip fillers, so she can look like us. And so in everything, and we don't, and this isn't even the science, this isn't even the literature, this isn't the technology, because I have been talking about that all along of our contributions. So it's not to ignore the contributions of other people, but African Americans have been the most our culture has been the most highly regarded around the world. Everybody's doing hip hop because of us. Everybody. So, and I do want to give a nod to Asians. Okay, Asians have also influenced American culture, especially in cuisine. You got a Thai. I love Thai, Chinese, Indian food. And then and the food is amazing. They've also contributed martial arts, their form of martial arts. We have capoeira, but they got their form of martial arts. You got Tai Chi, you got karate, you've got anime in the media, meditation, yoga, all of that kind of stuff from the Asians. And then with Hispanic people, of course, we can give them their due because we also have tacos and burritos and quesadillas, and they have their music and their hip hop and their jazz and their big band music and dance, and a lot of theirs is intersecting with Africans. And so when I'm saying Hispanic, these are the indigenous people that Europeans don't want to acknowledge, as far as I'm concerned. So with Europeans across that continent, and all the other nations represented within this landmass, we in America are a world house. So I want to read some of the stuff that Dr. King said. Dr. King was not playing with us. So I did 177. All inhabitants of the globe are now neighbors. This worldwide neighborhood has been brought into being largely as a result of the modern scientific and technological revolutions. And so Dr. King is talking about, we ain't had no airplanes. Now we got airplanes so people can cross continents. We didn't have television. Now we got television. We have telephones. So between 1860 and 1960s, you had this huge transition in science and development, I guess, of technology and science. And so that made us a world community. We're not just isolated anymore from one another. Um, let's see, on 179, he says, "We live in a day," said the philosopher Alfred North Whitehead, "when civilization is shifting as its basic outlook, a major turning point in history, where the presuppositions on which society is structured are being analyzed, sharply challenged, and profoundly changed. What we're seeing now is a freedom explosion. The realization of an idea whose time has come. To use Victor Hugo's phrase, the deep rumbling of discontent that we hear today is the thunder of disinherited masses, rising from dungeons of oppression to the bright hills of freedom. In one majestic chorus, the rising masses are singing, in the words of our freedom song, "Ain't gonna let nobody turn us around." And all over the world, like a fever, freedom is spreading in the widest liberation movement in history. The great masses of people are determined to end the exploitation of their races and lands. And so just imagine 70 years later. Okay, at 100 years ago, our folks threw off the chains of slavery. 70 years later, Asia and Africa were throwing off the chains of colonialism. And by the 60s and 70s, African Americans, Native Americans, women, gay people, and our disabled folks used the civil rights legislation to fight for their rights. So he said that this was coming, and that's exactly what happened after he transitioned. And now America had its chance okay? He said, that's what he said. Let's see, did I see? Oh, let me go on over here at 180. He said, let me stop here. It says, "They are awake and moving toward their goal like a tidal wave. You can hear them rumbling in every village street, on the docks, in the houses, among the students, in the churches, at political meetings. For several centuries, the direction of history flowed from the nations and societies of Western Europe out into the rest of the world in conquests of various sorts. That period, the era of colonialism, is at an end. East is moving west. The earth is being redistributed. Yes, we are shifting our basic outlooks." And America had a chance to do this, right? We had a chance to do this. We decided that we weren't going to do this. America decided to support a pedo, a 6 times bankrupt business person, an adulterer, a heathen, a criminal wrapped in racism, a sexual predator, to rise to the top in an effort to restore white supreme stupidity, not only in America, but around the world. And unfortunately, because they surrounded themselves with Asian coons. And when I mean coon, I'm talking about coon like we call black people coons. Okay, but I'm talking about we got Asian coons who got on the bandwagon, Hispanic coons that got on the bandwagon, African coons and African American coons that got on the bandwagon, trade wife coons. I want it. I know. Why do women have to have rights? And gay coons. There are people in the, Peter Thiel is a gay guy. These people are all on it. Those self haters who want to feel power and align themselves with white proximity to whiteness. These people, they miss the history lesson. Empires fall. Empires fall. And Dr. King said that in 1968. Okay, so one of the great liabilities of history is that all too many people fail to remain awake through great periods of social change. I do believe Dr. King says stay woke. Anyway, every society has its protectors of the status quo and its fraternities of the indifferent, who are notorious for sleeping through revolutions. But today, our very survival depends on our ability to stay awake, stay woke, uh, to adjust to new ideas, to remain vigilant, and to face the challenge of change. The large house in which we live demands that we transform this worldwide neighborhood into a worldwide brotherhood and sisterhood. Together, we must learn to live as brothers and sisters. I'm adding that sisters and the womanhood together, because they're still doing stuff. Or together, we will be forced to perish as fools. So if we don't get this alliance thing straight, we're going to perish. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Empires fall. Right now, we are witnessing the results of racism, materialism, and militarism under one of the most unintelligent, infantile, morally bankrupt sub Neanderthal whose only trophy is his whiteness, which is a made up social construct grounded in a proven false narrative of being superior and godlike. It's falsehood. I wrote all these words. It's just absolute insanity. So let me continue because Dr. King had a whole lot to say. And I was like, wow. We must passionately and indefatigably to bridge the gulf between, did I say that? Indefatigably. Yeah. To bridge the gulf between our scientific progress and our moral progress. One of the great problems of mankind is that we suffer from a poverty of the spirit. Which stands in glaring contrast to our scientific and technological abundance. And did we just see this last week or a couple weeks ago when they said because America pulled out of the World Health Organization that, oh my God, now we have cures for cancer. Brazil, Cuba, Netherlands, Russia, all of these countries, about 7 or 8 of them, were able to finally submit and release their cures for all of these illnesses. That's crazy. That's crazy. The richer we have become materially, the poorer we have become morally and spiritually. Every man lives in 2 realms, the internal and the external. The internal is that realm of spiritual ends expressed in art, literature, morals, and religion. The external is that complex of devices, techniques, mechanisms, and instrumentalities by means of which we live. Our problem today is that we have allowed the internal all that stuff with the spiritual stuff to become lost in the external, all the things we got, all the things we got. And we have allowed the means by which we live to outdistance the ends for which we live. So much of modern life can be summarized in that suggestive phrase of Thoreau. Improved means to an Improved means to an unimproved end. This is the serious predicament, the deep and haunting problem confronting modern man. Enlarged material powers spell enlarged peril if there is not proportionate growth of the soul. When the external of man's natures subjugates the internal, dark storm clouds begin to form. Oh my God. Let's think about the hospitals. Let's think about insurance. You got car insurance. You pay the car insurance every month. And then 5 years after you've been paying it, you get in an accident. And these people that you've been paying $100, $200 a month to for the last, for let's see, 12 months, 6,000, 6,000, 6,000, 6,000, 6,000. So 6,000 times five is $30,000. Your accident is 15, maybe 5,000. They be trying their best not to pay it. And then after you pay them, after they pay part of it, they will increase your insurance. Where they have had the money for 5 years, if you paid 100 or because if you paying for $6,000 a year, that's still 6,000 times five. What are we doing? So it's like, or it's crazy. If you paid 1,000, that's 6,000. Now it's going to cover your stuff. But that's what they do to us. And so, that's hospitals, that's insurance companies, that's mortgage, that's all of the stuff. It's outrageous. What did he say on 182? Oh, I'm going to jump over here to 183. All right. He said racism. Oh, when science, okay, I did that part. He said, as early as 1906, W.E.B. Du Bois prophesied that the problem of the 20th century will be the problem of the color line. Now, as we stand 2/3 into this exciting period of history, we know full well that racism is still that hound of hell which dogs the tracks of our civilization. Racism is no mere American phenomenon. Its vicious grasp knows no geographical boundaries. In fact, racism and its perennial ally, economic exploitation, provide the key to understanding most of the international complications of this generation. Congo, Sudan, extraction of these of this resources, Venezuela, Colombia, all of these places, and just undermining their everywhere they go, just undermining stuff, just making sure they can have what they need. All right, so 185. Lord have mercy. Oh, 184. What did he say? Nothing provides the communists with a better climate for expansion and infiltration than the continued alliance of our nation with racism and exploitation throughout the world. And if we are not diligent in our determination to root out the last vestiges of racism in our dealings with the rest of the world, we may soon see the sins of our fathers visited upon ours and succeeding generations, for the conditions which are so classically represented in Africa are present also in Asia and in our own backyard in Latin America. Oh, Dr. King. There is the convenient temptation to attribute the current turmoil and bitterness throughout the world to the presence of a communist conspiracy and socialist conspiracy to undermine Europe and America. But the potential explosiveness of our world situation is much more attributable to disillusionment with the promises of Christianity and technology. Christianity is the problem. Oh my God. Anyway, the revolutionary leaders of Africa, Asia, and Latin America have virtually all received their education in the capitals of the West, and their earliest training often occurred in Christian missionary schools. And here their sense of dignity was established, and they learned that all men were sons of God. In recent years, their countries have been invaded by automobiles, Coca-Cola, and Hollywood, so that even remote villages have become aware of the wonders and blessings available to God's white children. Either they share in the blessings of the world, or they organize to break down and overthrow those structures of government which stand in the way of their goals. And so this is the treacherous foundation for a world house. Racism can well be that corrosive evil that will bring down the curtain on Western civilization. Arnold Toynbee has said that some 26 civilizations have risen upon the face of the earth. Almost all of them have descended into the junk heaps of destruction. The decline and fall of these civilizations, according to Toynbee, was not caused by external invasions, but by internal decay. They failed to respond creatively to the challenges impinging upon them. If Western civilization does not respond constructively to the challenge to banish racism, some future historian will have to say that a great civilization died because it lacked the soul and commitment to make justice a reality for all men. And so, with that, I'm going to just finish this out on 190. I've gone over my time a little bit, but on page 202, because that mess right here is a very short statement. We are now faced with the fact that tomorrow is today. We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now in this unfolding conundrum of life and history. There is such a thing as being too late. Procrastination is still the thief of time. Over the bleached bones and jumbled residues of numerous civilizations are written the pathetic words, too late. We still have a choice today, or maybe not. Nonviolent coexistence or violent co-annihilation. This may well be mankind's last chance to choose between chaos and community. Hey, Mark. I'm done. I can't hear you.
Hold on a second. You were doing good, great show, and everything along those lines. So I was just checking you out and everything along those lines. So tell me, since you had the chance to hear her over the weekend and over today, we were talking about
Yeah.
the great book that Martin Luther King wrote. But what were some of the lessons that you got from the lecture that was done by Melissa Harris Perry? Because I know she definitely had some interesting thoughts
Oh my
about
God.
religion. Some interesting thoughts she had about religion that she closed out with, and the whole notion of the narrative and everything. I don't think that woman was prepared and ready for that, but she had some interesting conversation about
She
the notion
did.
of the narrative.
Yeah, I thought that she was the only thing okay, I'm gonna get the good part was that she nailed everything that we are going through right now. And it was so sad to hear about how she being such a well-educated woman with all, and I mean she said she didn't have a lot of experience, but her show was phenomenal. Her
Mhm.
research was amazing. So she rose to the occasion and was fired, like, over something that was so ridiculous, you know. And but
Right.
then at the same time she laid the foundation for Tiffany Cross and for Joy Reid to step into that space. And then here we go. A few years later, now they're gone. And so we
Right.
we're on this crazy cycle. And so that was very and then I also appreciated when she said that how she's in bankruptcy. Literally three-fourths of her income disappeared, or two-thirds or something. It was
Mhm.
a significant amount. And so they really had planned to destroy her. And she said, I'm fine. I said, oh, that's white people.
Right.
Do what you want to. We gonna still be here. And because those are things and they come and they go. And so we know that. But she
Right.
maintained her household. She's still intact and still working. And it may not have been what it was, but she rode it. She rode that wave and did not compromise. And so I
Right.
very inspirational in that sense. The only thing that I was like, is when she said she had her daughter in this all white school. And so I looked at Ariel. I said, should I say something to her? Well, like, never mind. Because I don't want to create,
Right.
it's been a beautiful thing. But, you're having to create these PowerPoints to address, thankfully you had a chance to address Arthur Ashe. And I was thinking Arthur Ashe was in North Carolina too. I mean, he's right here in Durham, playing down there at WD Hill. But in that space, you have your child in a space where how many things have been said that she did not get addressed. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, like, my kids are learning about where do we go from here? But I'm also when I came across Kwame Ture, of course, it was Stokely Carmichael.
Mhm.
I made my kids do a 50-word essay on him. Oh, who is James Meredith? They had to take a moment and do some research on him. Who was Floyd
Oh, that
McKissick?
was,
McKissick was right here from Durham, right? So
yeah.
I was able
Now that was
to,
the funny thing when she was, yeah, that was the funny thing when she was talking about the books that she had and how she got those books when she was a youngster and everything like that. So she was talking about those books that she was reading
yes,
as a youngster and how they were up there on the top shelf, and her dad didn't really want her to read them, but they were there, knowing
yeah,
that the kids were going to read them anyway and everything. So, and she mentioned I think Soul on Ice and a couple of other famous
yeah,
books, including like Baldwin and a number of others. So that
yes,
was kind
yes.
of cute. They were talking about like that
I thought
as a
that was
kid, and
great.
that's kind of what I was talking to you about. That's what I was talking to you about earlier before we started the show. This notion of how many of our kids are even naturally being curious. That's why I'm glad we've got schools like Sya Academy and other schools, and even Spirit House, that are getting some of these kids to actually acknowledge some of their history and learn some of that history.
Yeah, and it's in a natural environment. It's not like we
Mm-hmm.
have to curate it. We
Right.
curate it. They know they're gonna read something, right? And they loved reading Between the World and Me. And the way I
Mm-hmm.
let them do when they read it last year, and I said, "Okay, what I want you to do is, uh, you got 150 pages of this book. Every 15, 20 pages, I want you to either draw something, write a poem, or do it, and then I might give you some questions to answer. But I want you to." And so they they really, I mean, it was amazing what they did with that. I was so impressed with how they responded to that activity. This one, I want them, they're over the break project is to put Black Power on on the paper, on this big, large, like poster board. And I said, I want you to write down something that has to do with economics, draw something that makes something, creates a symbol or image or something that's related to economics, politics, education, and a couple other things. I can't remember all of it, but I want them to make a poster board that's going to reflect those kind of things, that, I mean, all
Oh yeah.
aspects of Black Power. And I'm so excited about what they're going to do with it. But these are, it's their curriculum. They're learning it and they having a chance to engage with it. Where her daughter, when she got that PowerPoint, she's like, "Mama, my nerve," you know what I'm saying? And so
Right.
she's going to get it, and I understand that. I understand that. But the beauty of of us being in this space, first of all, the parents are not in contention with me about it.
Right.
A lot of times they can also add to the conversation their own personal experiences, but my kids are literally learning this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to find a balance. And I was like, wow. So my heart was a little bit broken for her daughter. And I'm like, Lord have mercy over there in with them children. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And I'm not saying that we should not be in those. We need to be in biracial space, multiracial spaces. I think we do need to have that.
Right.
But they also, I would say, if you're going to do a history, choose an African American, choose a Native
Right.
American, choose a Jewish person, choose a Muslim person, and choose a white person, and let
Right.
all of those voices be heard. And how do they differ? And how do they synchronize? And what are they saying about America? You need to hear all the voices.
Yeah. You hear all the voices. I was interested in the piece, the thing that Haytat had the day before was Mike Wiley and Adrian Lentz, and they were talking some of the same things that Melissa Harris Perry was. But one of the things that he brought up, because he did a piece with a young lady, Dawn, I think is her name, or something like that. But they're going to do a piece coming up, I think in April or May, that deals with Jefferson writing the Constitution and everything along those lines and everything along those lines. But they were talking about how apparently he wanted John Adams to write that part of history and everything, because he thought that he was a little bit too ornery to write it, and they had some other qualities that he didn't like about himself and everything.
Right,
So he thought that Jefferson would be more of a statesman and would be able to pull it off. And he also thought that he
right.
was a better writer and everything like that. So that was interesting hearing that story as well. So
And
hearing
you
these
know what
stories presented by it.
Yeah, because I think Dr. King said mentioned something like that in his book too about
Right.
how it fell in Jefferson's hands to do it.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, but we have to, you know, it. You also just have to make learning as natural as possible. I
You
think,
can make
and
learning natural as possible. And one of the things that I love that I think Melissa said, and it's something that I've been preaching for a while now, even as the Hayti historian, is that we have to be willing to understand that history is it's messy and all along those lines. So we got to be able to talk about the
yeah,
warts and all. So even if you're talking about Jefferson, we've also got to mention that he wasn't exactly the greatest person in terms of his relationship with Sally Hemings and all along those lines. So he had some messiness going on in his life and everything. And now people are upset at Cesar Chavez because apparently one of his main allies is coming out saying that she had been abused and that he had abused some people when he was doing this labor work that he did and all along those lines. But that can be said about even some of our leaders. So that even though
oh
they can be great leaders, we are all people of
yeah,
uh,
Jackson, baby, right?
we all have our weaknesses and our dirt that goes with us as well. Because I'm sure that all of us have done something that we are not proud of, no matter how matter of a great person you are and everything like that. I'm sure that even Gandhi had some issues. That matter of fact, I know Gandhi had some issues, and other
Oh,
people have had
yes, I'm
issues
right.
and everything like that. So none of us, I don't know of anybody that is a perfect being. So even those that we exalt, we have to realize that they might have had their flaws as well.
Yeah, but it's also, are you flaunting it? Are you repeating
Right.
it constantly?
Right.
And so with the whole picture with Trump is like, I do what I want to do. Wherein,
Yeah, Trump's like that. Trump's like he don't care. But
yeah,
it was funny. I was talking to somebody. It might have been one of our other shows earlier today, and I was saying how there was a post, and it was actually a MAGA post, and they were talking about how Trump was the greatest president of all times, and they got a whole lot of pushback. I don't know that they were expecting to get as much pushback as they got because they did it on it was either Facebook or TikTok or something
yeah,
like that, and folks were going like, "Yeah, he's going to go down as the worst president," because I think they was like he was going to be 100% the best president, and they were like, no, 100% the worst, or nah,
yeah.
you got it all backwards. So even though it was a MAGA person that posted it, and there were a couple of MAGA people that were backing him, there was a whole lot of pushback that I don't think they were expecting because people are seeing this war in Iran, they're seeing the gas prices, and they're going like, yeah, you might have had some good ideas, but even the worst person probably had some good ideas. I think that they said some good ideas came out of Hitler's brain, even though we know Hitler was atrocious and everything like that. So even it's just like even good people can have bad things that they've done. Yes, good people might get lucky and come up with a good idea every once in a while.
Yeah. And the thing is that what is their entire character? You cannot,
Right, right,
and because even Dr. King, they made all of that malicious, accusation. They
mhm,
said the majority of that stuff was fraud, but
right,
even as a human being, look, that's not we're no, what are you trying to do? What is your intention?
right.
Intentionality is everything. We know Jesse Jackson.
Intentionality is everything, and how much of that was also set up and everything
Yeah,
like that. Because we do know
all
that
that.
Pro and a number of other people might have put people, and then this may be what we eventually find out about Cesar Chavez. Because sometimes they will put people in trick bags that you don't always can't always
Great.
get out of, and everything like that. Because they put them in
Yeah,
intentional trick bags and everything like that,
exactly. We
and you
don't
can't
know
always
because they
get out of
said,
those.
he's 16. I'm
Like I
gonna
said,
give you this money. Yeah, and to go over there and mess with him. And when he was saying, "Go home," you stayed.
right,
Didn't I tell you to go home? No, you still
right,
here. Oh, I need a ride home. I'm just saying. We know that
right.
that happens, and if and maybe. Or it could have been that he was really a dog, but I don't know. But we don't
Right.
know enough
Like I said,
about.
we don't know because it was so long ago. The same with Cesar Chavez. He might have been just a dog, or even King might have had his dog ways and everything like that. And we've all had our bad situations. I know there have been situations that even I've been in, which I was not proud of, and everything along those lines. But like you said, you have to look at the entirety of the picture and what was going on at the time.
And that's what the scripture, he who is without sin cast the first stone. That was the whole point. Go ahead, throw
That's
a
the
rock.
whole point.
Throw one. Let me see you throw one. Because
Throw a rock because Yeah, because what that's saying is, I know that one, but there's another one about the glass houses. Because like you throw that rock and they throw it back, that glass house is gonna get shattered mighty fast.
Yes, because we all are not perfect. And and then also you have emotional things that are going on. I mean, for us, I know, oh my God, Micah, after Mike, Lord have mercy, I didn't even think I was a human for a while. I mean, I was
Right,
so distressed. And so your temperament, the things that you ignore, the things that you can't keep up with, and when you are going through these milestones. So we don't know, were you depressed? Were you, was stuff your family messed up? What was going on
right.
in that situation? Because we don't know. Maybe Jesse Jackson, maybe his, I don't know if that is that true though. Is that his child? Did they prove that?
Yeah,
Because I
like I
know.
said, and I don't know that because I mean, there's that rumor about Jesse Jackson and him having a child out of and everything like that. Because and a lot of times you don't know. I mean, if people are involved in various relationships, I mean, that is the one thing that people can do. Because there have been a number of cases historically where people have found out that they had a child many years after the child was born. The child might even be a teenager because you get
How
involved
about
in different relationships and things like that. And if the woman decides to keep that child from you, you may have a child that you don't even know is your child until they reveal it.
that?
And they may not reveal it to the child is well into their adult years or their teenage years, depending on what
Exactly.
was going on with you at the
Exactly.
time and whether they stayed in the neighborhood. Because we know people have literally had children and then moved. I mean, that's one of the running jokes that men tell all the time. It's like somebody will say, "You don't have any children," and one of the running jokes that men will come back and say is, "None that I know about," because we all know that men are having relationships
Look,
and you never know.
look, let me tell you, that is so funny
Huh?
because look, I have one. I have a parent here, and that brother got to be 70. Like he's in his mid 70s. Do you know
Uh-huh.
that he has his first? His son is 4 years old. That's his first child. That's what he
Right.
said, and
And
he's
like I
walking
said, but
like barely able to run, and he got a 4-year old.
yeah, 4 year old.
I'm
That's
like,
what I'm saying.
what?
People have children later in life, and you, like I said, you also don't know because if people move, if you had a relationship, I mean, it takes a while for children to be born, and most women are going to try to find their father, but if the father pissed them off, they might not try to find him. But there, like I said, there might. I do know that there are historical cases of people that did not find out that they were even who their parents were until well after they were in their adult years because the mom was like, I ain't telling you who your dad is.
Hey, and so and then you're trying to rebuild, but then like I said, like we have both said, it's better once it comes out. That really is a person's personal business, and I
Mhm.
don't think we should be judging them based on something they did in their youth, or if they made a mistake even in their adulthood when they have this other track record. If you were seeing them corrupt, when hasn't Trump been corrupt?
Right. Trump been corrupt the whole time and everything like that. I mean, that even and like I said, sometimes people get put in trick bags. That even comes down to that whole notion of what happened with was it Magic Johnson? It's one of those people that the woman
Yeah,
was in the hotel and everything like that. And
right.
all in
Oh,
it, that's what yeah. Oh, it was Kobe. Was it Magic or Kobe? It was one of those. I think it was Kobe. I think it was Kobe. It was Kobe that they had been playing the game, and the woman came into the um hotel and everything like that. So you know what was on her mind? It was a celebrity. She was definitely targeting them and everything like that. But it's
yeah.
what happens after midnight. It's like that old saying about like Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And I guess he was thinking what happens in this hotel stays in this hotel. But that isn't always the case because then the media gets out there and they decide they want to yap.
And it ended up, was it the what was the Mike Tyson and
Hmm.
Robin? Yeah, is that the one you're talking
Robin
about?
Givens.
Yeah, yeah,
Now I was talking
yeah.
about the basketball players. Right.
Oh, okay. Well, she had one that was a mess with them too, and I don't
Yeah,
know.
those, yeah, it was a mess between Robin Givens and Mike Tyson and the way that they had their whole thing because I think theirs was like a whole spat, and that was also the case of sometimes people might be controlling outside of your environment because I think that was her mom that was involved in that one.
Probably took it
Yeah,
too far, but
yeah,
it's a mess. It's a mess.
it's a mess. Cool.
Mhm.
Well, let me see what these people want, and we'll get you out of here on
Okay.
this show. But always a great conversation.
Peace, Mama.
All
Have a
right.
good evening. All right.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Bye.
If you're talking, they will hear you.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy, so we show them how. And we tell them with honest conversations that let them know what we expect. Not just one time, but every chance we get. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. Kids not only need to know the dangers and how to avoid them, they need to hear it often from you. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be taken without a prescription and never shared with friends or family. It's dangerous and illegal. So talk with your kids and guide them through the challenges of growing up safe and healthy. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
So talk, they hear you. You can do it if you try.
I'm a St. Sya student. Of course I walk into the sound of drums.
I'm a St. Sya student. Of course I know my mom.
I'm a St. Sya student. Of course I can play the drums.
I'm a St. Sya student. Of course I can work with my hands.
I'm a St. Sya student.